Hi, I'm EllaAradia and welcome to your Psychic Tarot Love Reading. This reading is for my Cancer, Scorpio and Pisces water signs. The timestamps are below, where we'll be taking a deeper dive into your person's hidden feelings for you. This is a love reading and it's for those of you who are already connected with someone, even if you are currently in no contact with your person. This will be a very specific message, so it may not resonate for all of you. If it feels right, then it's meant for you. Otherwise, you may want to check out the readings for your other placements, so Sun, Moon, Rising, or Venus. And before we jump in, a big thank you to all of you who are supporting my channel by liking and subscribing. So if you enjoy this reading and you haven't already done that, please do. It helps the channel out a lot. It doesn't cost anything to subscribe, and then you can get notified when the next videos are up. So Cancer, let's jump in. So I always like to tune into the energies first, Cancer, before I start pulling any cards. I'm a psychic reader, so I like to see what the universe shows me. I feel like many of you have been dealing with somebody that has been, let's say, behaving badly. I feel like there's some lessons here in really standing in your truth, really standing up for yourself, and, you know, in doing that, really choosing yourself, looking after your emotional needs, your mental, emotional well-being. And that's the lesson. And acknowledging and respecting what your true genuine needs are, and what you want and deserve, you know, in the connections that you have with others. And a lot of the time we tend to learn things in quite negative and dualistic ways. And what we tend to find is that the person we're dealing with tends to mirror to us the relationship that we're having with ourselves in some way, because I definitely feel like there has been, you know, a little bit of, let's say, letting things slide, boundaries being compromised, allowing certain behaviors, or, you know, just kind of like putting it to one side in the hopes that something might change, in the hopes that something might change for the better. But in doing that, you know, that's where that lesson comes in around, you know, looking after your true needs and choosing yourself. Because every time you let something slide, every time you let something go here, you're not looking after your true needs. And that's the mirror. You know, other people are always mirrors for us. Overall energies is the Knight of Swords. This is a very fast-moving energy and often represents either somebody coming into your life very quickly or leaving your life very quickly, but very often in quite a destructive way. This is the energy of kind of charging ahead, but just not really thinking things through. And sometimes that can be in the form of words that were spoken, actions. But, you know, swords are all about communication. So there may have been words spoken with this person that, you know, may have been harsh, may have been destructive. Your person's view of you, the Knight of Wands. This is known as the player of the tarot. Their feelings towards you, the Empress. Their intentions towards you, the Eight of Pentacles. So this is someone here who is wanting to start over with you. They're wanting some kind of new beginning with you, because that's what the Empress is all about. She's all about new beginnings, rebirth. And with their intentions being the Eight of Pentacles here, that's somebody that actually wants to put the work in. This is someone who is willing to put that work in, to invest, you know, with a view to, you know, getting something back from that. This is their view of you, player energy. So I'm not sure, is that them? Is that you? You know, do you have other connections going on? Are you keeping your energies open? Because sometimes these readings can be flipped. Your feelings towards this person, the Queen of Cups. In the challenge, we have strength. So somebody here, I feel, has got some insecurities, fears or insecurities that they need to work through in order to really embrace this connection, to, you know, take things to the next level, to take it further. With your feelings towards this person, you know, this is somebody that you want to pour your energies into. But when you look at the figure on the card, the lid is on the cup. So the Queen of Cups has all this love to give, but she also has discernment, you know, because this is all about knowing who to give all of that love to and how much and when. With a hidden influence, we have the Four of Pentacles. So there's definitely somebody here who is holding on too tightly. They're keeping their feelings close to their chest. They're holding on too tightly. You know, this is a very guarded energy. It's somebody that is, you know, holding back, you know, could be controlling. And it's a way, I feel, of guarding their heart. So it's whoever it is that is this kind of player energy here. So whichever side this is, that is, you know, keeping their options open. That's who I feel the strength and the Four of Pentacles really relates to here. And I'm not all that sure which way round this is. I think it's going to be different for different groups of you. So take it however it resonates. You know, whether that's you, Cancer, that, you know, you've got someone here that just really wants to pour into you with that Empress. They want to put the work in. They want to work towards something for the long term here. It may be, you know, that they came into your life very quickly and, you know, you're not fully trusting of them with this Knight of Swords here. You know, that's a very, very fast moving energy. And, you know, it might be early days and it may be that you're just not fully trusting, you know, who they are just yet. But it could be also be around the other way. And this almost, you know, for some of you, for this other group of you, I feel like that's you, Cancer, looking after your genuine needs, looking after your emotional world. And that is the lesson that I was talking about at the beginning here around, you know, not compromising boundaries, your truth, you know, really honoring, acknowledging and respecting your needs. And in doing that, you are choosing yourself. And you might be dealing with somebody here who is a little bit of a player. They may be on the cusp, you know, because with their view of you, the Empress, the Eight of Pentacles, a new beginning, putting the work in, investing, they want to invest in you, but yet there's still that little bit of a player energy and there's still something in them that is holding on too tightly, controlling, wanting to perhaps hold on to a certain independence. And in order to really embrace this Queen of Cups, which is you, they need to work through, you know, some fears and insecurities or heal some old patterns from their past. You know, this might be someone who, you know, kind of holds on to that lifestyle because it's a little bit more superficial. You know, they don't have to connect, you know, deeply. And that's a protection, that's guarding their heart. And that's the challenge here that, you know, needs to be gotten through in order to really shift things to the next level. But I feel like they also need to change the way they're showing up, because For those of you that it relates this way around that I'm talking about now, I feel like you're dealing with someone who is sometimes not honoring your boundaries, your needs, you know, and it may come across as, you know, you feeling disrespected in some way, unseen in some way, unacknowledged, unappreciated. And it may be that this person is actually just a lesson for you. They may not be a life partner. They may simply just be a lesson. And the most important thing, you know, with any connection, it's not so much about, you know, trying to make the other person change. They're only going to change if they want to. I mean, you can bring their awareness to things, but ultimately we always have to bring it back to self, and we always have to look at, you know, what is this situation? What is this person mirroring to me that I need to work on, that I need to be aware of? And once you shift your energy, then sometimes the whole dynamic with that person shifts as well. That's the thing to remember here. And they'll either step up and they'll match your energy, or they'll choose to move on and leave your life. And the universe usually has a way of kind of, you know, removing someone, putting them on a different path. With your advice from the universe, the Six of Pentacles, and you know, this is an energy which sometimes comes in after a difficult time. You know, it's a sign that support is coming in after a difficult time, a challenging time. But it's also about these equal energies of give and take. And I keep getting drawn back to this Knight of Wands again. Like, for those of you that this is reversed, you know, the way I was talking about earlier, it might be that you yourself here are dealing with two people. Like the figure on the card who's giving to two people. And there may be a choice that needs to be made. Because one of these people, I feel, is somebody that does want to put that work in. They do want to have this opportunity, this potential with you. And this is someone who is, you know, ready and willing to really invest in a connection. And so there may be a choice to be made, but very often it relates to these energies of equal give and take. And again, that brings me back to the overall soul lesson here around not settling for less. Especially for those of you that are dealing with someone here who is, you know, a little bit of a player. You know, this is about standing by your truth, not settling for less, because, you know, relationships are meant to be reciprocal. And, you know, each side, you know, should be investing in this and working towards, you know, that long-term commitment. In your outcome, we have the Page of Swords. This is also about communication. Sometimes it represents, you know, messages coming in back and forth. Sometimes it's also about not quite being ready to make a decision, like still gathering information. And sometimes known as the spy of the tarot, like some of you might be, or vice versa, looking at pictures, trying to find out a little bit more about this person or each other. Some of you may even be in no contact at the moment, which is why that Page of Swords is there, you know, kind of looking at social media and things like that. Because with the overall energies being the Knight of Swords, you know, it feels like for some of you there might have been some kind of conflict that went down, some kind of destructive energy here. And it just really signals, you know, like, don't rush right now. Take your time before making any kind of choice or decision here moving forwards. You know, make sure you have all the information, as, you know, you need to make your next choice in the most informed way. But obviously don't forget to, you know, listen to your heart on that as well. So let's get your person's hidden message for you. So the hidden message is more for those of you who are in some kind of no contact situation here, Cancer. Okay, Cancer. I'm starting to understand our connection, which is why I feel like for some of you, there might be some space between you right now, because it often takes that little bit of space for somebody to, first of all, you know, be in the reality of perhaps you not being there, missing you, but then that reflection comes in, and very often people do, not always, but, you know, they do start to understand the connection a little bit more deeply. I know I was a distraction from your pain. I feel you even though we are apart. You and I were too young. I always think that that's about, you know, emotional maturity and, you know, being able to really work through issues that may have come up. But it does feel on both sides, you know, there has been growth. I couldn't let you get close to me. And that's that challenge. That's that barrier that I was seeing that needs to be, you know, worked through in order for things to really progress here. So Cancer, I'm going to leave that there. We are going to move on to Scorpio. Scorpio. Okay, Scorpio, let's jump in. So I always like to tune into the energies first, Scorpio, before I start pulling any cards. I'm a psychic reader, so I like to see what the universe shows me. I feel a Scorpio who is in a moment of feeling like they need to make some kind of choice about a relationship. I feel like this is something that was, you know, very, very quick, fast moving, a lot of attraction for each other, a lot of, you know, thoughts towards the future, you know, building towards a future. But it almost feels to me like, you know, time has passed and, you know, that initial phase, you know, starts to kind of wear off a little bit. And then you really, really get to know someone. And I just get this feeling that for some of you Scorpios, there's some things kind of just showing up about this person that you're feeling a little bit unsure of. Even though I do feel like you've got someone here who, you know, really sees a future with you. I feel like this is someone that does, you know, has developed deep feelings for you, but I feel like you're a little bit kind of guarded, you're a little bit held back. And this feels like a point of, you know, something needing to go to a next level, you know, not even necessarily, you know, living together or a marriage commitment or anything like that. It just feels in, to me, emotional depth somehow. You know, opening up a little bit more, opening up your heart a little bit more, and things really moving to a much deeper level. Your overall energies is death. And, you know, this is a card of a transition, let's say. It's endings, it's beginnings. Very transformative energy, because it's a little bit like, you know, how a snake sheds its skin. You know, it's the letting go of perhaps old versions of yourself, negative limiting beliefs, you know, anything that may have worked for you in the past, but it doesn't anymore because now it's holding you back. And there is an invitation here to shed any old versions of yourself which are at this point in life limiting you, holding you back, and to step into a new version of yourself. So, you know, it's some kind of transition. You know, death is always about growth. It's a rebirth. and a chance for, you know, some kind of new beginning, some kind of fresh start. And it feels like you've come to, I feel, some kind of choice point here. So with your person's view of you, we have the Four of Swords. I always think of this as my no contact card. You know, it's somebody closed off, shut down, going within. Their feelings towards you, the King of Swords. I feel like this is you, Scorpio. This is you that has kind of pulled back a little bit. You've closed off a little bit, because I do feel that there's some things about this person that you're not feeling 100% sure about. So their intentions towards you, the Devil. And this is you. This is their feelings towards you, the King of Swords. Because I feel like I'm reading for a Scorpio that is more logical, let's say. You know, Scorpio that, even though you're a water sign and there's a lot of emotion in there, and you do feel very, very deeply, but I feel in this case, at this time, you know, there's an energy of kind of leading with your intellect, your wisdom, really looking at, let's say, the facts of a situation. And so they may be needing from you that emotional depth, because, you know, this is their feelings towards you. And it's a little bit like how they're seeing you, I feel. Your feelings towards your person is the Sun, clarity, happiness, joy, approaching things, you know, with an open heart, and very much a card of potential here. And I do very much see that, you know, you both see that future potential in each other. But what I'm not liking is this Devil here with their intentions towards you. Because the Devil is, you know, all about old patterns, toxic behaviors. And with death as the overall energy here, that's a card of transformation. And it may be that the person that you've been dealing with here has been showing some, let's say, toxic traits with that Devil card there. I feel like communication has broken down a little bit. And that may have happened through, you know, whatever the behaviors of this Devil card are. You know, these are energies of, let's say, obsession, control. Toxic behaviors. You might be dealing with someone here who I feel maybe struggles to open up and communicate. Or maybe they feel like they can't communicate with you because on your side, you know, there is this kind of closed off energy. And so it feels like you've got kind of caught in a loop with each other here, because on your side, you've seen these behaviors, you know, they might have been a little bit overwhelming for you. Then it may have been that they've kind of closed off, not feeling like their emotional needs are being met. And that's caused you to close off, even though you both see this big potential. And you both got sort of like caught in a loop here where that communication has really, really broken down, I feel. And because of that, you have these kind of, particularly with the devil anyway, these kind of toxic behaviors, which, you know, start to be a feature of the connection here. And it may be that the person that you're dealing with here has definitely got, you know, a few things to look at in themselves around perhaps how they are showing up, because, you know, this is always a call to go within and look at, you know, any fears, insecurities, negative limiting beliefs, you know, behaviors, old patterns, which no longer really serve. And in fact, they're actually damaging the connection here. So there's a big invitation for some kind of, you know, letting go, especially with death as the overall energies. That's a rebirth. And it feels to me like it's all hit a little bit of a wall here. And that might be you right now, Scorpio, just taking some time out to be still, to, you know, have your own space a little bit, to be in a place of stillness, quietness, where you can really listen to what your heart's really saying in all of this. What does your heart truly want? Because I still feel like there's potential here, even though, you know, there's some things going on. I really do feel like you've ended up in a loop with each other because things haven't been communicated with, you know, as you've been going along. And so things have built up on both sides. And on one side, you're closing off, you're questioning things. On their side, you know, they've got these kind of negative behaviors which are, you know, showing up in the connection. In the challenge, we have the Lovers. This is the choice that I'm feeling here. Lovers is all about, you know, making a choice, or making a choice which affects a relationship. My advice would be, don't rush this, Scorpio. You know, really take your time here. There's no rush to make a decision. Take that time, take that space to really listen to what your heart is saying. Because the Lovers is all about staying true to you, doing what feels right for you, not what other people, you know, want you to do or think you should be doing. And, you know, that's the challenge right now. You're a little bit stuck. You're not really sure whether to, you know, carry on here. You know, there's still this sense of potential with this person. But I would say don't rush it, because I do feel the answer will come, you know, because this is in the challenge. So there's a challenge around making some kind of choice here. The hidden influence is the Five of Cups. This is a card of loss, of regret, disappointment, and looking back on the past. Very often going back over things, you know, regrets, things that were said, like replaying old situations. And that could be you, Scorpio, looking back at perhaps, you know, what was your part to play in this, and how could you change? How can you change moving forwards? Because when you look at the card here, there's still two cups still standing, which represent, you know, something that can still be salvaged here. You know, they represent the blessing, the lesson. They represent what still remains, what can still be salvaged. In your advice, the Ten of Wands, this is a completion of perhaps a challenging time, which has started to kind of feel heavy, tiring. You feel like you're carrying something. Often the energy of responsibility or feeling burdened. You know, that's coming to the end. So you're over the worst. You're at a point of change here. You know, it's either going to come to a close and complete itself, or you're going to get through this challenge and move into, you know, these energies of the sun, move into a whole new chapter with each other. In your outcome, we have the Seven of Wands, often a card of being guarded, but also an energy of staying true to you, standing in your truth, even in the energy of, you know, challenges, adversity, or perhaps even chaos around you. Just staying true to you and honoring, you know, what you truly want in a person, in a connection, in love. So let's get your person's hidden message for you. So the hidden message is more for those of you who are in some kind of no contact situation, which I do feel you are. One more shuffle. I'm so attracted to you. So there's clearly, you know, still this physical attraction there. We will be together again. I wish I could take back my words. I replay our conversations over and over. I wish I could share my good news with you. So Scorpio, I'm going to leave that there. We are going to move on to Pisces. Hello, Pisces. So one more shuffle. Okay, Pisces, let's jump in. I always like to tune into the energies first, Pisces, before I start pulling any cards. I'm a psychic reader, so I like to see what the universe shows me. Feeling a choice point, and I see someone who is beginning to move forward. There's a desire to move forwards. There's a desire to take a different path. But there's someone that is either in your recent past or you're still connected to them, that it feels like someone that you have some kind of history with, and a lot of memories together. There's all these kind of, let's say, emotional attachments to this person, but at the same time, it feels like something has kind of gone out of the connection, and it feels a little bit to me like you've outgrown this person, but yet it's still someone that you really care about and someone that you do have love for. But it's this energy of just, you know, perhaps not really feeling aligned somehow. Overall energies, the Six of Swords, this is what I was just talking about. This is a very transitional energy. And it represents, you know, moving away from a challenging time towards, let's say, calmer shores. It also represents overcoming, you know, those challenges. It's a card of learning from the past, learning soul lessons, taking that wisdom with you moving forwards. That's actually what the swords in the boat represent. The wisdom that you take with you moving forwards, you know, as you go through this transition. So it feels like some of you are sort of in the middle of this. You're moving on from something. You're not quite to the other side just yet. Some of you are just kind of at this point where it does feel like there's some kind of, let's say, a pull on your soul. And this is the thing sometimes, you know, it can sometimes be that the person that we've been connected with, you know, that has completed. You know, we've had the experiences we were meant to have with them, you know, especially when it's about learning soul lessons and things like that. And, you know, and things do, you know, come to a completion. And very often that kind of manifests, I feel, as just feeling a little bit disconnected from each other, or that you're kind of drifting apart, you're growing apart somehow. And just this pull to take a different path. Your person's view of you, the Five of Swords, this is a card of conflict. And it may be that there has been some conflict, some arguments. There may have been some harsh words spoken. You know, that's what the energy of this card is very often about. And it represents, you know, the kind of battles, the kind of arguments which are, you know, very ego-driven. You know, somebody wanting to be right. It's a card of winning at all costs, even if, you know, there is a destruction or emotional damage to the connection. So it feels like something has, you know, some kind of conflict has gone down between the two of you here. Their feelings towards you, the Eight of Wands. That's a very fast-moving energy and often represents some kind of action, swift movement. Sometimes it's about communication channels opening back up again, especially if you are in, you know, some kind of no contact situation now, you know, especially if there's been conflict and you've both kind of taken some space or you've both sort of closed off from each other. The Eight of Wands, you know, represents a desire for your person to, you know, get in touch, you know, send a message, you know, communicate with you. Their intentions towards you, the Ace of Wands. So I wonder, because when I feel into the energies here, you know, this can be a journey where something is completing itself and you're taking a different path, you know, perhaps as a single person for a time. But there's also two figures in the boat here, which represents a possibility of overcoming those challenges together, because there is somebody that wants some kind of new beginning here. You know, this represents new beginning, new life, you know, things like that. It's also an energy of attraction that, you know, there are still those sparks there. But, you know, this is something that is going to take a little bit of work, especially if, you know, there's a sense of that kind of going out of the connection and kind of drifting apart, feeling like you're just not really resonating with each other anymore. Your feelings towards your person, the Knight of Wands, this is also, you know, fire energy. So there's still an attraction here. You still, you know, you still have those sparks for each other in that way. So maybe this is just a hurdle. You know, it doesn't have to be that, you know, this is an ending necessarily, although it might be for some of you. This might be you wanting to just be single and be out there and, you know, have other options. You know, this is often known as the player of the tarot, but it's also about somebody following their heart. And again, you know, it's a call to action. I feel like there's a choice that needs to be made here. You know, like it just feels that on both sides, it's about making, you know, your other interests in life, life goals, dreams, you know, supporting each other with that. Really, you know, making sure that you are understanding each other's emotional needs, because I do feel like this is a long-term connection. And, you know, we do shift, we do change, our needs might change. And, you know, this is why communication is so important, and being, you know, open, honest, and having those really truthful conversations with each other. And is there still something here, you know, that can be salvaged? Because it might be that you walk into this next chapter together, but perhaps in a different way as before. What's in the challenge? The challenge is the King of Cups. So somebody, I feel, you know, when this is in the challenge, someone's not feeling safe and secure and held emotionally here. So that could be you, that could be the person that you're dealing with, or both of you. The King of Cups is someone that has the ability to really connect very deeply, and not only that, hold a safe space, you know, for emotion and emotional depth. In the challenge, the hidden influence is the Four of Wands. So this is a milestone moment. The Four of Wands, to me, I always think of it as a gateway. It's a gateway to emotional happiness, contentment. And it often represents things going to the next level. So for some of you, you know, this may not be kind of a like years and years and years connection, but it may be one that has been going on for a while, and you've reached a point where things need to go to the next level. And somebody might be struggling here to kind of really open up emotionally to a deeper level, because that's your hidden influence. That's the invitation, you know, some kind of significant, you know, milestone moment where, you know, often represents, you know, moving in together, some kind of commitment somehow, you know, a significant point in the connection. But it feels a little bit like, you know, there are some challenges here around communication, and it feels very emotional related to me. You know, being able to have those, you know, deeper emotional conversations, to express those deeper feelings, the fears, the insecurities, feeling, you know, having the courage to be vulnerable. Because what I feel has been happening instead is conflict, and, you know, one that is, you know, not really healthy. You know, this is not communication here that is coming from a place of openness and honesty and truth. You know, this is a lot to do with, you know, someone digging their heels in, and ego, and, you know, often of communicating in a very destructive way. But it may well be, you know, that this is just a hurdle that, you know, you can get through. Because I do feel like there are deeper feelings for each other. And I do feel like if you can just get through, you know, this emotional challenge, let's say, these insecurities and fears around perhaps, you know, letting those deeper feelings be known, opening up the heart and things like that. I feel if that can happen, this could be something that you could actually get through. And not only that, it could be something that you can use to bring you closer together, and, you know, to have some kind of whole new fresh start where, you know, you are able to take that next step, you know, whatever that is for you. In the advice, the King of Pentacles. This is an energy of self-care, nurturing, you know, yourself, others, and really working towards those energies of, you know, building, I feel, trust, security, building a strong foundation here in order to, you know, really work towards the long term. You know, this is the King of Pentacles. This is, you know, commitment, looking to the future, and really kind of making that commitment, investing in the connection here. So, you know, whether it's for some of you, that's going to kind of resonate in the sense of you looking after your needs in this and really honoring that, which might mean taking a different path. For others, this is about perhaps two people equally investing, making a commitment to each other, whatever the challenges are, and putting things in place to kind of get through these challenges. Because this is all about building something which feels safe and stable. In the outcome, the Seven of Pentacles, a moment of a pause to perhaps just take a step back and really look at, you know, what this is, what you have, because the energy of this is all about reevaluation. It's a reset, reevaluation, and really having a good look at, you know, who or what you really want to put your energies into moving forwards. And so usually, you know, that requires a little moment of a pause, taking a step back, you know, taking a step out of the situation, really getting in touch, you know, with your true feelings, looking at what you have, and, you know, working out, I feel, you know, if this is still something that you want to continue investing in, or is it time to, you know, perhaps take a different path. So Pisces, let's get your person's hidden message for you. So the hidden message is more for those of you who are in some kind of no contact situation. Pisces. The timing just wasn't right for us. I will wait for a sign from you. I feel you leaving me behind. That's what I was saying at the beginning. I see you, Pisces, starting to kind of move on. I know I was a distraction from your pain. I feel you even though we are apart. So Pisces, I'm going to leave that there. If this reading resonated, let me know in the comments below. I'd love to hear from you. And as always, no matter what comes through in a reading, moving forwards, always trust what feels right for you. So thanks so much for being here, and I wish you a great month ahead.